Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm going to be cleaning up and having to do a little bit of a repair job on 8 of these beautiful hardbacks from the 1930s, and this is the A Century Of series, which were published by Hutchinson in the UK. Now, I really love these books. There's about 35, 36 in the series, and I'm only about 3 or 4 short. And some of the harder ones to get are very well, you just got to grab copies when you see it. So this one, for example, A Century of Ghost Stories, I've only ever seen 2 copies for sale in the last sort of year and a half, and the first one I just wasn't quick enough and someone bought it before me. Paid a lot of money for it. I think I paid £75 for it. I paid considerably less for this one. However, it has got a few faults and bits and pieces wrong with it, and that's what we're going to sort of be having a look at today. So that one does need quite a bit of work, and then I've got some other ones to have a look at as well, about another 7 or so volumes. So anyway, that has got what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so we'll just have a look at some of the other ones that are going to need a lot of work. So Ghost Stories definitely is, and so is A Century of Historical Stories. As you can see, this one's got quite a big split on the spine there that we're going to need to sort out. So those two, I would say, are going to need quite a bit of work. Now, I picked up these two, A Cavalcade of History and the second Cavalcade of History. They came together in one lot. Now, in actual fact, I've already got A Cavalcade of History, so I'm just going to clean this one, and then I'll compare it with the one that I've already got in my collection, and I'll keep the best one. The second Cavalcade of History I've not got at all, and on the face of it, it looks great, but unfortunately, it's got this real bad mottling to the spine there, and it's even sort of rubbed out the publisher's name at the bottom there, almost anyway. So I don't think there's a great deal I can do with that, because basically it's just been rubbed off over the years. You have to bear in mind that this particular series of books were published 85 years or more ago, back in the mid-1930s. So consequently, copies aren't turning up that often, and when they do, they're quite often they've got decades and decades of wear and tear. So we'll do what we can on those two. I've got this one here. This is the Famous Trials, first volume of Famous Trials. This one's not too bad, so I'm quite pleased with that one. Now, the Holiday Omnibus, this is actually the second copy of this one that I've had, because the first one was so far gone, I didn't want to keep it. It was far worse than that one there. This one, I think, is going to be absolutely fine, so that's all right. Once again, it just needs a clean. Then we've got A Century of Sea Stories, Raphael Sabatini, and then perhaps one of the rarest, if not the most expensive, and that's A Century of Love Stories. Now, I've only ever seen the one copy of this for sale, and in the end, so I thought it must be mega rare. And lo and behold, I picked one up, and it was about £3.50. So quite often with these, although they're old books and they're massive anthologies, so I don't think any of them have got any original content except some of the ones which have got brand new introductions by a couple of famous authors like Dennis Wheatley or P.G. Wodehouse, for example. Apart from that, it's all reprint material, but it is, my love of them is I do love a short story and an anthology, because I can just sort of dip into the books and read a couple of stories, and that might be it for the day. And that's really why I like short stories. So what we'll do then, I'm going to do the easiest first, I think, and we'll leave the tricky stuff till the end. So we might as well start off with A Century of Love Stories. So the process that I'm going to do with these, first of all, I'm going to have a companion volume sat next to it, so that when I have the top open like that, I've got something a similar height, and the cover is not being bent all the way back. So we'll just have a little look through this. So initially, then, I can just see some sort of faint pencil pricing in the top right corner. So I like to remove pencil dedications or prices, definitely ex-dealer prices, when I get my books. So I use just this sort of soft artist's rubber. It's a pentel. It's a really, really soft sort of rubber. And one little tip, if you've got sort of dirt on the end, is just give it a rub on your bit of cardboard here. I always work on like a firm surface, not like a tablecloth per se, because I like to be accurate as I can. There we are. So let's just clean the tip of the duster, and then we're just going to turn that around that way, so I can have a good rub of this one here. And as you can see, straight away that pencil's coming right up, which is good news. So yeah, I thought, there's only about 30 to collect of these. It won't take me long. It's actually taken me the best part of 2 years to get near the end of the set, and I am just down to my last few volumes, which I'm very pleased with. There's some fantastic stuff in here. I can't say this particular one is one I'm going to be rushing to read, a century of love stories, but I am at least pleased that it's filling a hole in the collection there. So looking at it, it's not altogether in too bad shape. I mean, there's little bits of wear. I mean, these all came with dust wrappers, so at one point they would have been protected, but Hutchinson actually encouraged you to remove the dust wrappers so that you could order other books in the series. Now, I've got my trusty toothbrush here. Now, the reason I've got this is because these books have been stored probably on a shelf for, as I said, decades. And what I want to do is rub the top of the books here just to get off any sort of dust that may have built up over the years, and there's probably loads. So that's the first half of this. Now, I'm not sure if you can see that so well on video, but this half here is much, much cleaner than the other half, which I'm going to do now. And you can almost see plumes of smoke. Well, not smoke, but dust in effect. Decades old dust coming off the top there. Loads of it there. And I'll do across the edges here as well, since we're giving these a really nice thorough cleaning, because I want these as clean as possible before they go into my main collection. One of the biggest issues with this series is because they're so heavy. A lot of these original volumes have got just over 1,000 pages. It does mean that when the books are stood up vertically, the text block tends to drop down. So you've got them up like that. This text block here can tend to sort of drop down, which is not great, and consequently that causes a weakness in the hinges. So we'll have a look at that now. So this actual first page here isn't too bad. That one's actually remained in situ quite nicely, and that's how they should be. One thing that they did do with their books was they would put a list of other titles in the series as they were getting released, and they're sort of the uniform editions with this one. So the front of this book isn't too bad. However, the back, unfortunately, hasn't fared so well. And you can see there that there is sort of quite clearly this, use this one here, you can see the sort of the break in that is what they call the hinges, where the book has it's been so heavy, or it is so heavy that it's come away from the main block. Now, I've seen far worse than that, and to be honest, it's not that bad. There's a little bit of play there, but as I said, this is one that I'm probably not going to be reading, let's be honest, because it's a century of love stories. Certainly one aimed at the women. However, I could, if I was so inclined, I could just put some glue to glue that bit sort of back onto there. So to glue that little slip back. The other alternative I've got, and this is something I might have to do with the ones that are really bad over there, is cut a piece of paper, the length of it, slip it into there, like so, right into the groove, and glue it back. So I'll literally be inserting a brand new piece of paper. Now, once again, I'm semi-reluctant to do that because this one's not actually too bad. I don't think that one needs it. So what I think I will do with this, I am just going to run a little bit of glue along there, along the edge there, and then close this one shut. And then over time, that one will just sort of set off and that'll be absolutely fine. Just before I do that, I'm just going to go through the pages and make sure there's no turned over corners. And I like to sort of flick through the pages just to check the suppleness and check there's nothing that I've missed inside, because sometimes you get all sorts of things hidden inside these books, not just bookmarks, old bus tickets and railway tickets and all sorts of ephemera, which can be fascinating to look at when you think of when these books were published. All sorts of things turn up. I've had love letters of all things, but predominantly it's bookmarks or things that people have used as bookmarks. There we are. So in actual fact, there is a little batch of pages that the corners need turning over. So let me just get in there. And I think it's good practice to bend the corners back, particularly on a big old book like this. There we are. Right, so do I glue that bit or not? I think I might as well. So I'm going to pop just a little bit of glue in there to glue that back onto the webbing you can see underneath. So what I tend to do, you can get bookbinder's glue, which you can almost like paint on, but I have found that I can get quite a lot of precision just with some cheap Mr. Pritt stick here, Mr. Pritt original. What I do, I sort of slide it onto the end of like a micro screwdriver here, and that gives me the way to put the glue on with some precision, to be honest, because I don't want it going everywhere. But on the other hand, Pritt stick is one of those glues that's quite versatile when you use it with paper and paper products such as these books. So it does mean you've got a little bit of leeway if you go wrong, and if you sort of squidge over because you put too much in, you can just wipe it off, which is excellent. As you can see, I'm just popping it into all the little grooves where this end paper has sadly come away. And it's, as I said, it's just the way these particular series of books were designed, in that they're so big that they're really susceptible to this. And I think the more popular the book, the more likely it is that it's not being mistreated, but it's just been worn over the years. So one of the hardest ones to get in the series is A Century of Horror. And that particular one, with an introduction by Dennis Wheatley, and he also has a story in that one, very early in his career, in fact, in the 1930s, is actually quite collectible. And I've seen sort of dust-jacketed copies for a few £100, but the loose one, so not the loose one, but the unjacketed one, tends to go for between 50 and 100, depending on the condition. And I've actually got a really, really nice one, which was from the library of Mary Danby, who ended up editing a lot of horror and ghost anthologies for Fontana and Pan books. She even wrote some Pan short horror stories for the Pan Book of Horror Stories back in the 70s. So I've got her copy, which is pretty cool, isn't it? There we are. There's a little bit more under there. So although this is a bit of a fiddly job, I think it probably is worth doing, just so the book doesn't get any worse next time it's opened. But it will take the best part of a day to really sort of set in. And what I tend to do once I've repaired my books, I just leave them for a week or so until I do anything else with them, just to give any sort of gluing and repairs a chance to settle down. So that is that. So I'm just going to get my scalpel here. Just going to raise that up start popping this into place. As I said, it's not going to be a perfect one. I didn't really want to replace the whole piece of paper and put a new bit of paper in because I don't think it warranted that. But it definitely did warrant just a little bit of glue to stop it, I think, getting any worse. Now, when this is shut and it's set for a little while, we'll give that, there we are, that's fine. So we're going to give that some time. That will set in position, and then it'll be looking great. So that's book number 1 of 8 done, and that was one of the more fiddly ones, I have to say, but I'm pleased with how that one's come out, so that's good news. Next then, A Century of Sea Stories. Now I don't think this one actually needs too much work doing on it. So Raphael Sabatini edited this one, and he was famous for a character called Captain Blood, and certainly an author I remember my sort of gran reading quite a bit back in the 70s. So let's see. Once again, I don't think this one's too bad. So initially then, what I'm going to do is just go through inside and see what's on the inside cover here. So there is some writing, but most of it is in vintage fountain pen, which we're not going to be able to do a lot about now. As you can see, they're down here. So it's got to Robert Francis Kennedy, to commemorate our first meeting on the 8th of June 1935, from M.W. Isle, to be shared with F.H. and M.F.K. And it says, as he can take possession of his own library, until he can take possession of his own library. Well, there you go. So I always put my toothbrush down the rails here, and that did get some stuff out. Now you can see there in the corner there's a vintage book dealer's £15 there. Now I definitely want to get rid of that one. I certainly didn't pay £15 for it. I forget where this particular one did come from, but I'm just going to use my soft rubber again and get that out. So the actual writing there, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do much about that, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world because it's sort of a period piece and it doesn't really matter too much. Let's just have a look on the back here now. Once again, although this book's really nice, Nick, I'm going to just run the toothbrush on the rail there, like so. And then I'm going to give the top edge a dusting with my toothbrush. This will get rid of all those decades of dirt. Certainly not too bad, that one. However, it looks like I can see some creased pages inside. So that'll be the next thing I have a look at. This one's got a slight, just down there, there's a slight bit which has come out. So rather than remove it, I'm just going to fold it in so it keeps the book intact. Yeah, I just leave it like that. There we are. But then let's have a look, see. Yeah, so there was a few pages that have been turned over, which has happened over the years, so I'll bend those back. Thankfully the books are so big, they sort of sort themselves out when you get the corners the correct way. Here's another little batch of concertinaed in a different direction than they should be. But it won't take a lot to just pop these back into place. There we are. Okay. So that particular one, all things considered, that's a real nice example of that one. I've just spotted on the back sort of a little mark there, which I'm not sure if that's like a pencil mark, so I'm going to give my soft rubber a little go on this one, just to see if it does bring it up. Now, the boards are very easily marked, so I try and sort of go with the grain. So with this board, it's sort of going that way, so I'm just going to try and follow that, and I'm being very gentle here, just to see if I can get this little mark up. It's lightened it a little bit. I'm going to give it one more little stab, see if it will just do this bit at the end here. There we are. I mean, you can sort of see on the book that if I use my thing here, you can see where there's been sort of a ripple on the boards where something has been spilt on the back cover, maybe splashed a little bit onto the spine there. But nothing too serious. On the whole, that's actually a really, really clean copy, so I'm more than happy to add that one to the collection. That's really nice, that one. So that's the second book. Might as well just do this next one, which is sort of crying out to be done. So this second Cavalcade of History is one that I've been after for quite a while, and I was a bit disappointed. I bought it and I could only see the front cover, and I thought, well, that doesn't look too bad. And I was doubling up because I already had the first Cavalcade of History. This particular ones, these are one of the sort of the range of sort of historical books. They're not fiction at all, and they look at particular people. So if you can have a look in the contents here, you can sort of see who they cover. But sadly, yeah, the spine is really sort of mottled. I mean, it probably looks worse on film than it does in the flesh, but even so, I'll clean it up as best I can using my usual techniques, and we'll just see how it looks after that. So certainly very sort of toned inside, but this piece here, the first page, has managed to keep itself in one piece, just about. I'm just going to delicately run the toothbrush there for any dirt that might be in the hinge there. Right, so once again, as is quite common with these, you can see that it's ever so slightly come away, and you can see the webbing underneath, which forms part of the internal spine. Now, with this one, I could theoretically cut a piece of paper and just join the two bits together, but it's so minor and it's such a straight split that I really don't think it warrants it, so I'm just not going to bother. There's no internal writing to worry about. Okay, and then let's have a look at the back edge. So often these can be just as bad as the front. The back's actually really nice. So now I'm just going to flick through a few times just to check for folded over corners, of which this one is. Once again, it's actually really good. It's such a shame the spine is so beaten up. And now I'm going to clean the top. So this one's not taking a lot of work at all, is it? Cool, look at the dust coming off there. Look at that. Okay, I mean, it's not great. I mean, it really isn't. There's no way to really get that any better than that. It's just this spine. What a shame that it does let it down, and there's nothing I can do with it. These sort of splashes are, I don't know what they are, but it's not something that's just going to clean up, unfortunately. It is what it is, and for the time being, I'm going to be happy just to have that one in the collection, filling a hole. But I think probably I will end up replacing that one at some point. So, last one before we take a little break is the Cavalcade of History, and this is the first volume. It came out obviously before the one we've just done. I have already got one of these. However, I think this one might be slightly better condition, so I'm going to do my best to clean it up as good as possible, and then I shall just compare it against my own copy, and I'll keep the best one. So that's what we're looking at next. So the same technique then. First of all, I want to see how it's looking inside. So I'm going to use another similar sized book to rest the cover against, like so. And I'm going to rub my toothbrush in the rails there. Not too bad at all, that. Yes. That's okay. There we are. These are all the subjects that are covered in this volume. Yeah, not too bad at all, that. That's nothing to worry about there. Let's have a look at the back end. Boards aren't too bad. Can't see any detaching. No, that looks all. That's the page. You see that there? So ever such a slight crack there, but nothing too much to really worry about. Then I don't believe there was any writing inside. This is a nice clean copy, so no. Once again, not a lot to do with this one, except clean the top edges. It's come up quite nicely. See the plumes of dust again off that. It was really dirty, wasn't it? And it's almost like an invisible dirt, you know. You know it's there. It's just until you actually clean it off, you just don't realise quite how bad it is. But that's made quite a difference to that one, I believe, which I'm very happy about. And then we'll just I'm just going to check the corners again there. Oh, you can smell. You cannot believe the old book smell coming off this one. It's intoxicating. Just a little bit here where the corners have been bent over. So let's sort them out. There we are. That's it. I don't think there's much we can do with the boards on this. There's a few smudges and bits of dirt, which you would expect with a book that's 80 plus years old, but no, that's not too bad at all. So that's the first Cavalcade of History. Next is the Holiday Omnibus. Now, the Holiday Omnibus, this one here is actually a replacement copy because the first one I got had a really bad spine and it had gone over to the front of the book boards. And although I had a copy, it just wasn't up to scratch. So it's taken me quite a while, but I found a copy. In fact, I had to get it over from a dealer in, I think it was the Netherlands or Belgium. A copy had ended up over there, and that's where I picked up this one, this Holiday Omnibus. Quite a scarce old tome, this one. So we'll just borrow the famous Trials book here. And let's just put my toothbrush into the rail there. This one's nice and clean, actually. That's nice. And there he is, the Holiday Omnibus. A little bit of dust in there again. Lovely. The front of that book is actually really, really nice. Let's see how the back is. And I can instantly see there's a bit of writing in the back there that we're going to need to rub out. Let me just get that bit done first of all. Corners folded over there. There we are. Okay, that's not too bad, but I do want to get rid of this this pencil writing in this top left corner. That's quite unusual, a spot for it. DC5, sometimes it's like a bookseller's stamp to show how long they might have had it in stock. That's usually one of the little signs. Sometimes it gives you an idea of when the book was published, because these don't actually have a published date, because Hutchinson kept them in print for quite some time, and the series was a huge, huge success, but sort of died out at the start of the war when paper rationing obviously kicked in. So they had to curb their output, I guess. Now, the top of this book, though, however, does look particularly dusty and dirty, the edges here, so it's going to need quite a bit of rubbing by the look of it. So let's get started. It's difficult to see it making that much of a difference on this particular one. It's interesting, but it seems as if there was more coming off the bottom edge than the top of this one. And that may have been how it was being stored, upside down. Quite possibly. And then there does seem to be quite a bit of dirt. Yeah, loads on the edge here. I don't think this one's been stored in the traditional sense, i.e. sort of vertically with the spine up. I think this one might have been laid down or even upside down on a shelf, and it's potentially been sort of rescued and ended up eventually into a dealer's catalogue. That's what it looks like to me. Just the way that one sort of cleaned up. Very weird, isn't it? Let's just go through the pages one last time. And just in case you were sort of wondering what sort of thing are in these are, in this particular one, this is like extracts from certain stories, and in actual fact, I'm glad I checked, because it looks like the previous owner, as they've read each book, each short story, they have given a little pencil tick about which one they've done. So I don't want to know what they've read, because I haven't read them yet. So I'm going to get rid of those little ticks. So I'm very pleased I double checked that. But basically, this Holiday Omnibus is just like little segments, extracts from more established works, some from, at the time, contemporary authors, and some which were books which were rapidly becoming modern classics. There we are. It's probably, there's 3 pages of extracts in this book. Last bit's over here. You can see how good this soft rubber is. Don't need to put a lot of pressure on. But it just keeps my books looking as good as possible. And that certainly didn't take a lot of work. There we are. I'm glad I checked that. Yeah, there's a couple of still. I was very faint, so I just want to make sure I've got every last trace of those ticks off. There we are. Brilliant. So that's another one done. So we've only got 3 left to go. Although the last 2 are going to require quite a bit of extra work. So that's number 5. So this was the last, I believe, fairly straightforward book to clean. Now this is the first volume of Famous Trials. The second volume I found much easier to get. Once again, I've only ever seen one version of this, and delighted to be able to add it to my collection today. Let's have a little look then. So we've got a name in the front there that we're going to need to remove. There we are. Basically, it's just a very early true crime book. It's illustrated, this one, like the second volume. And as you can see, it's uniform with the other books. So let's pull this one down. We can use as a rest, just so that I can delicately take out this previous owner's name there. I can't see that being anybody we know. No, this actually is quite stubborn pencil, but I need to be careful. I don't want to. I always sort of really hold each bit of the paper quite taut, so that I don't inadvertently fold this bit back. So that's almost there, but there's still a little faint crease. So I'll do it the once, then I'll go over again and do it a second time, just to be sure I've got everything, and I think I have now. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, once again, you'll notice that tiniest of tiny little slips in there, but nothing too much to worry about, so I'm not going to worry about repairing that. I just don't think it warrants it. Let's just go through the book whilst we're here. It looks like this one's in really, really great shape, which is the main thing. Yeah, it's looking all right. And then let's look at this edge here, corner here. Yeah, that's pretty darn good, that one. Considering its age. Once again, this sort of edge here, this is sort of borderline, I have to say, because it's very near. Yeah, I don't think it warrants putting a new piece of paper in there, a new sort of join. It's borderline, but I think the book on itself, because it's not one of the thicker ones, it sort of holds itself all right. So I'm not going to really go ahead and do that, I don't think. I am, however, going to clean the edges with my toothbrush. That definitely does need doing. So let's do this first of all. Once again, in my eyes, look at the first half that I've done compared to the second half. It makes an immediate difference, this. That's pretty good. Do the bottom edge here. That wasn't too bad. There we are. That's not too bad. Now, there is a little mark on the front here, and it looks like it could be something like paint or something like that. Oh, look at that. I've just wiped it with my fingernail, and it's just come off, so that's good news. There's a bit more of this along the edge here, so I wonder if that's the same. If it was like ancient, yeah, it's coming off, ancient sort of paint or something like that on the boards. Let's just give that a little going over with my toothbrush. Yeah, that's me. There was a little bit of surface dirt, and I don't know what that was, but I'm glad it's come up first sort of stab. Once again, it's suffering from that mottled spine. Whether that's sort of the glue that's come through or what, I don't know. Now, what's this on the back here? This little bit of... Oh, look at that. It's come off straight away. Whatever that was a bit of dirt or something. Not doing too badly, actually. However, that's another one done. So 6 down. Now, I've got 2 more to go, both of which require a bit more work, unfortunately. So now that we've used those, that's sort of a warm-up to what we've got coming up. So what should we do first then? Well, we'll do historical stories. I think this is perhaps the worst one. So yeah, we'll leave the worst to the last, and we'll do A Century of Ghost Stories, which is certainly a rare book, and it does need work. But I have to bear in mind that this is quite a rarity. It's taken me a year and a half to locate a copy, and I don't want to make it worse than it already is. So I'm going to first of all just give it a general tidy up. So initially then you see you've got that 5/36. Now that just means it came out, or at least it was popped into the bookshop in May 1936. Now I know when these books were published. As I said, they're all 1935 to 1938. I don't need that in there. It was done at the time by the bookseller. I don't think that's taking anything away from it. All it is the publishing date. Nothing else in the top right corner that I can see. But as what we've noticed before, unlike some of the other books where it's a tiny little gap, say like that, this one is much, much more pronounced. Now, I'm not 100% sure what I should do with this. I could cut a brand new piece of paper to size, and I could create a join of my own. It'd be like that, wouldn't it? I'd have to put my own join and put it across there like that onto there, and then it will cover up that break there, because there's nothing really that I can just put glue in and it's just going to fix itself, because it won't. It does need something in there to stop it and push down like that, and then basically held in place in that position. That's what we're sort of looking to do. So that is something we may have to do in a sec. What I'm going to do first, carefully, is just go through, see if there's any corners that need repairing. See, this is a book I do want to read. I love a ghost anthology. Absolutely love them. Now, what's this I've come across? I'm almost weary to touch it. Let's get my scalpel out here. Well, I don't know what that was, but it came off easy. That's the main, and that's why I go through. And this is a way to sort of sense check, just sort of visually give it one last going over, before we try any work, and which is then going to be pressed down, because if we do some work, I'm going to need to sort of leave it for a week or so to really set off. One thing, I mean, I've always got lots of piles of books around, so I'm never really short of having weights, but it does pay sometimes to have a decent weight in the house that you can use. And one tip I picked up online was where people had taken a traditional house brick and they'd wrapped it up in cloth, so it wasn't going to mark anything, but they were able to use it as a very heavy weight, which I thought was a great idea. So I actually do have some house bricks outside which are spare, but as I said, I've never really needed to do that because I've always got piles of books around that I can use as weights, and I've got those other 6 books that are all finished now. None of those need weighting down, so if I do need to do some weighting, I can use them, which is probably what I'll do. So just turning over the few last corners which weren't in a good spot. There we are. And then the back edge actually is absolutely fine by the looks of it. It's just that front one which has come away. Yeah, so just check there's nothing I need to do on the boards before I get started on that particular internal repair. So there is a tiny little sort of gap in the spine there, and I'm not 100% sure what I can really do about that. I might just, when it's on the shelf, you're not really going to see it that badly. I think I'm just going to have to leave that bit. But this one, I think, definitely is going to warrant a repair, because it's certainly just going to get worse if I leave it. So what I want to do then is create, that needs to be folded down, the top edge here, so it doesn't go over the book. So that needs to be sort of like that, like so, that sort of position. And then I want to have a piece of paper which is going to be going across that join, which I glue into place, and then that's, over time, I'll shut it, then over time the board should be together like that, and I'll press it down like that. So that's what I intend to do. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to grab, I haven't got sort of aged paper like this to hand, so let's just make a little bit of room over here. Put my Pritt stick over there. I've got some just basic printer paper more than anything, and I'm only going to be putting a very thin edge along there. So what I need to do initially is just to measure this out. Let's pop it back a little bit there. So there's my edge. So I'm looking for one around this sort of size, like so. Go along the edge there, to about there. Okay. So what I can do, don't need that scalpel for a moment. Just gonna lightly like that. Now, I do only need a small piece. I don't want to use too much paper, but it is going to be folded in half. So I think initially I'm going to, is that going to be enough to bridge the gap? I think it will be. So let's do that. I'm going to cut this out. One thing I haven't done yet is clean the top boards of that book, so I'm going to do that before I actually glue this bit on, because I don't want to leave it till after I've made this repair, because once I've made this repair I want to leave the book exactly as it is for the time being, probably for at least a day, but probably a few days I'll leave it in situ to let the repair completely set. Okay, so I want to have the bit of paper even on both sides. So I'm going to take this bit of paper and basically I want to fold it as near in half as possible. And then I'm going to check that I've got the size of it correct. I mean, it's not a science. All we're trying to do is really prevent it getting any worse. So let's bring this back in a moment. And we can use this top edge here as a bit of a guide. Now, how does that, let's see, in actual fact, that's absolutely, I think, spot on. Maybe, is it a hair over? Yes, it looks like it might be just an absolute millimetre over, but that's really, really good for a first try. So I'm just going to cut a millimetre off the edge here. There we are. That should be perfect. So what I'm looking to do then is get this page turned over. This is the unsightly bit that I want to get a shot of. So I've creased the paper, and that basically where the corner is needs to be fitted in there. So this edge isn't too bad. That's going to be quite easy. It's not going to cover any of the text, like so. But then we're going to get this one down, like this bit here. It needs to be down and go against it like that. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to do the bottom bit and get that glued in right against the edge like this, first of all, so that that's in the right spot. Then we'll fold it back down and we'll glue the top edge, and then it'll be ready for the other piece there. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get my Pritt stick. It's certainly not the best repair, but it's at least going to be good enough for this volume, I think, just to stop it getting any worse. So I'm going to use this bit of paper here as a stop the glue going everywhere. But as we've said before, it is only Pritt stick, and it is designed for paper. It's not a particular publisher's glue by any means. This is just something that you could buy in any sort of stationers. I would always recommend getting a decent brand like Pritt stick rather than one of the pound shop versions, because they're not particularly great. There we are. Let's just put that to one side. We just pull this back a bit. Here we are. It's as clean as we can get that surface. So I'm just going to pop this into place and then sort of push it in as far as I can, like so. There we are. That didn't take too much. Like so. I'm folding the edge down, but not completely down, just getting it out of the way. So this top edge now has to join there. So slightly fiddly now because I need to glue this top edge whilst it's on the book. So, but with just a little bit more care, I should be okay to do this all right. I think what I'm going to do, just to be on the safe side, I can put this bit of paper underneath, like so. So then if I do go over, I'm not going to glue the pages of the book, which would be a bit of a nightmare. So this makes it a bit easier. Let's give a bit more out. I want plenty of glue on here. There we are. So that's that top edge glued. Now, I am half tempted to put a little bit of glue along this edge here as well, because that's what's ultimately going to be binding it, and that's actually going to be quite easy to do. So I'm just going to put just a little layer along there as well. It's not going to hurt one little bit. There we are. And then all we need to do is marry these two parts together. Now, it needs to just come down because it's just sort of creased out. We sort of want it about like that, don't we? So that it's not poking out the way that it's gone over the years. That's about perfect. So get this edge in first, and then we'll pop. Okay, and then we can pop the edge over like so. There we are, the top bit. Oh, that's going on really well, actually. There we are, so that's covered that unsightly bit. And then what we're going to need to do is delicately close it. It's all very square, like so. Press it down there. And that's now going to need to be staying like that for quite some time. Now I'm going to get another piece of paper which hasn't had any glue on at all, and I'm just going to slide it in between the two pages there, ever so delicately, to stop them adhering, because I can just pull this out then. There we are. I'm just going to slip that in there like that. Brilliant. And then give that a good old press down. Now I'm going to need to put some weights on that, but that's going to save that one from any extra sort of damage. And the only thing we didn't actually do on this was I meant to do the top here with the toothbrush, so let's do that now. Ever so carefully. Should have done this before, really. So yeah, that's a particularly rare book, so it was worth giving it the treatment. But it does need to be stored correctly now, just to give it that chance to set off, because the block is so slightly out there, like that. Brilliant. So that's a century of ghosts. So we've got one more to do. Now this one perhaps is the worst one of all, but it's a scarce old book. It's not valuable, thank goodness. It's not a mega valuable one, but it is just one that's quite difficult to get. And this is a century of historical stories, once again edited by Raphael Sabatini. And this one's quite interesting. It's got a high school stamp on it. The Sale High School. 1936, here we are now. The County High School for Girls, Sale. Prize awarded to Rachel E. Coleman for school certificate. Form 5, date July 1936. It's really nice that these, something like that. I mean, I know, from a collector's point of view, it's not exactly as published. However, it is still really nice to sort of see the history of a book such as this, Now, straight away, you can sort of see it's a similar sort of problem, isn't it? It's the back edge has come away, and that just sort of needs to be re-glued. So, easiest way by far is to just put another strip of paper in. So I think that's what we're going to do. But look at this on the spine here. Look at this. So, on that, I think the best thing to do would be to put a layer of glue along the edge there and just fold that down. And then another bit of glue just along the edge again, perhaps to keep that in place, to stop it getting any worse, because it's almost come off, and I don't want to glue it to the spine because you need a bit of give. So not great. It's basically a copy, but it's not going to be great in any way, shape or form, but it's going to be what I would call a filler. So it is going to be a filler copy, but we'll make the best of what we can out of it. So I'm just going to borrow this one here so that I can safely work on it without making it any worse. So first thing we do, I've got a little clump of these pages that need turning over. They're the wrong way around. But at least this is the last one now, and then I'll have all of these shipshape in my collection. I'm very much looking forward to doing a video when I've got the whole lot. and I'm able to show you the entire set. I'm very, very close now. I think I'm only about 3 or 4 books away from it. So that'll be really great when I can finally get them licked. But unfortunately, I've been very strict up to this point, just with my copies, and I'm going to have to just accept that certain books I'm just going to have to take in lower grade. This one, I'm sure I'll find a better one down the line. I'll keep an eye on it, and should a better one turn up, I shall obviously replace it. But in the meantime, I'd like it looking as good as possible, even if it's not like worth much more than a tenner or something, you know. That's a little bit of paper coming out here. So, and the ones that get most damage is just because of their sheer size, and they are enormous. As I said, you know, they're over 1,000 pages. That's actually a misprint there, so the book's actually been misprinted. So what I would do in that case, I'm just gonna, I could either turn it back in or cut it down, and I'm going to cut it down in this case. There we are. Right, so that's where we need to do it. So the back one there, is the front one any good? The front one, not too bad. Let's just turn these corners over as well. So really, I'm going to need to get another piece of paper in and do the same thing again, just to protect the back. But that's okay, we can do that. There we are. Right. So what should we do first? I think, yeah, let's do, I mean, it's 2 things, isn't it? I think we better do the internal bit first. So let me just get a fresh piece of paper here. So it might seem a little OTT to be doing this on this particular book, but you know, I want them looking as good as possible, and it's not like it takes long to do, is it? So let's cut this bit out first of all. I did do a video a little while back where I repaired an old 1950s paperback, and that really was quite a repair job. That was really something. But I was delighted with how it came out, because it was literally in pieces. But it came out all right at the end of the day, and that's what matters. And it saved the book from going in the bin, which is probably what would have happened to it if I hadn't have intervened, because it was literally in about 6 pieces, and it was an old 1950s crime book called Forbidden Planet. You may have seen the old B movie with Robbie the Robot. It was the novelisation of that one, an absolutely fantastic book as well. Excellent, that one looks all right just by doing it by eye. I'm just folding the piece of paper in half here. Seems to be coming together quite nicely. Right, so I think similar to how we did it last time, I'll glue this bottom edge first. So I'm going to glue that bit in, and size-wise, yeah, it's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to glue it in like that, and then the top bit I'm going to need to glue in on top, sort of like that, and then shut it in, and might have to leave that for a while before we do the spine, unfortunately, because we can't do both bits in one day, I don't think. So let's use this offcut here to get my first piece all glued up. This is just stopping the glue going everywhere by doing it this way on a piece of paper. There we are. So I think that's sufficiently glued up. And get that bit over there. Bring it all back in again. Slide this one into situ. Yeah, that looks like it's in. Not covering any text. Lovely. Let's fold it down. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. And then we're just going to glue that piece into there, like so. So it shouldn't be too bad just to hold this one in position. What I can do is actually quite handy. This one is easier than the other one we did, in that I can just run the glue stick along the edge like this. And that's not going to hurt one little bit. So it's just going to do the little edge there. That's going to get secured. And on this one, once again, if I just put the glue up like that, I can actually just run it along there, like so. So we've got plenty of glue in there before this one gets squished into place for the next week or so. So that's how we want it. So it's a bit more tight like that. And then we're just going to, there we are, just going to raise that one up and pop it in like so. Then what I'm going to do, I've got another piece of paper over here, which hasn't had any, that has had a bit of glue on. I want a bit which hasn't had any glue on, which is this bit. I'm just going to pop that in there. Keep this in position. There we are. I'm going to pop that, put plenty of pressure on, because that one, like the other one, is going to need quite a bit of work. Now we'll just have a look at this. I don't think it's something I can do whilst this top, whilst the inside corner is setting itself off. But basically, what I think I'll try and do, just to get this looking half presentable, is fold that little top bit in there. Then I might just sort of, it's almost come off, hasn't it? It's very, very difficult because it needs to attach to something. So I could just glue the very edge there of the spine in the hope that it will just keep it in one piece. I think that's probably the best thing I can do. So I am tempted just to pull it to one side. Yeah, it's coming off so easily. I'm hardly having to do anything, so I think I'm going to do that now, because as I said, it's not going to hurt, to be honest. So let's just get this one scalpeled in here. As you can see, it's only this last little bit that's holding it in place. So let's just take that off. And we'll do a proper sort of glue down. And at least then it's going to keep it in one piece until such times I can get a better copy. I'm being ever so delicate. Here we are. It should just come away now. There we are. It's going to do it. There we are. Yeah. That's just the sort of the overflap from where it was bound. These things sort of come away pretty easily, to be honest. There we are. And there's the top one there, which we might as well get the top flap over as well out of the way. And then we can just re-glue the whole lot. There we are. So that foredge is being glued there. So you could, I mean, this is actually kept together really well in actual fact. The sort of the bit on the spine here, so I'm actually quite pleased with that. But as you can see, just the sheer weight of it is what's caused this to be in a bit of a state. So I'm going to just razor away the loose bits of fabric. We don't need those because they're quite unsightly. There we are. There's a few bits along the top here as well. Let's get rid of that one. don't think the books were mass produced, and they were released as like budget titles in effect. So they weren't expensive, but consequently they also didn't spend a lot of money on them. A lot of dust in there. A lot of dust in there. There we are. That's not too bad. So we can actually get this looking not too bad, I don't think. So I'm going to re-glue that bit down, so that's as flat as we can make it. So I might as well do that now, because it's not actually affecting what's going on inside. As I said, once again, your Pritt stick's absolutely fine for this. So get this down. There we are. Okay, then these edges here are a little frayed, but if I was to just cut them off, I'm going to lose some of the top of the spine. So I actually want to sort of glue it like that. I don't want to glue the whole thing. I don't want to glue all of that. I just want to glue the top bit, but I can glue that bit underneath there. So I'm going to get that bit that bit glued. That's fine. Because that's exactly how it would have been sort of back in the day when the book was assembled. And then we're just going to run a layer of glue along sort of the top edge there and along the top edge here, in the hope that it's going to at least stop it getting any worse, because it's certainly not in a great state at the moment. A little bit of glue there to keep that bit down, like so. Now, what we're looking to do then is just to pop it in there, and then when that's fully set off, I'll just go through and take off any other little bits of frayed like cloth which has maybe got through the net here whilst we've been sort of repairing it. It's not going to need a lot of glue because I don't want to glue the whole thing down, just the edge, and then it's just going to need to sit with plenty of weights against it for a week or so until it sets off. So this isn't going flat, it's just going to go slightly bowed against it. There we are, like so. There we are. So that is the 8 books repaired as best I can. Now, I'm no professional by any means. I don't do this for a living, but these are just sort of techniques that I've picked up over the years as I've been a book collector more than anything. So I do hope you find those useful. So there you are. I hope you have enjoyed watching me clean these books today. If you have enjoyed it, do please consider subscribing to the channel for regular book repair and book cleaning videos. There's lots already on the channel, and I've made a dedicated sort of playlist where I show my book repairs and book cleaning and book pickups that I've had over the last month or so. I usually add a video at least once or twice a month in that sort of department. Do please give the video a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching today, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.